I'm Michael Schuman, and I am an attorney, author, economist, and for the last 20 or so years, I have been promoting local small business. It started with a book called Going Local, and I am very interested in any and all ways that we can convert the expensive, ineffective, corrupt activities of economic development centered on attraction or retention of non-local business, a proven dead end in economic development, how we can replace that with modest initiatives, modest investments in promising local small businesses, and build our economy step by step, brick by brick, local purchase by local purchase.
So, why local business matters? Now, you folks understand this. I mean, this is really all I'm doing here is explaining why your intuition is right and sharing some of the evidence about why local business is a key to prosperity. This is a study that was done about a year ago in British Columbia. It was a study comparing how money moves in stores or restaurants that are either chain-owned or independent. What it shows is that for every dollar that goes into an independent retailer or restaurant, about 45 cents of that dollar stays in the British Columbia economy. If you look at chains, it's about 18%. What you realize is that every dollar that you put into an independent rather than a chain generates about 2.5 times as much economic development impact. 2.5 times the jobs, 2.5 times the income and wealth effects, 2.5 times the tax received by the local jurisdictions, 2.5 times the charitable contribution. This study also showed that a 10% shift in the province, with people shifting 10% of their spending from chain to local, would generate about 30,000 new jobs. This kind of study has now been done about 25 times over the last 10 years by various groups. And they all point in the same direction. They all show that for every dollar you put in a locally owned business, you generate between 2 and 4 times the economic development impact. And there is not a single study that has shown otherwise.
Well, crowdfunding is the great democratization of the capital marketplace. And I think to understand the significance of crowdfunding, it's important to know that the United States has been under a regime that I would call investment apartheid since the 1930s. And I call it investment apartheid because basically our system of securities laws enacted in 3 separate laws basically said if you are in the richest 1% of American society, you're allowed to invest in anything, anyone, anytime, no questions asked. If you're in the other 99%, you can only invest a penny in a small local business if that business has done $25,000 to $100,000 worth of legal work. And that legal work means a thick disclosure document, often written in 8-point font, all caps letters that no human being has ever been observed to read. So we've created this sort of empty ritual of disclosures which keeps the securities lawyers very wealthy and very well fed. But that is a regime that has kept apart 99% of Americans and their money from half of our economy, which is small local business. I would argue that that half of the economy that we have neglected of local small business is at least or more profitable than the Fortune 500 companies we have our money in now. It is a highly competitive sector, and from the standpoint of communities, these are the most important businesses for local economic development. So if we can figure out how to tear down the walls of investment apartheid and put the money of the vast majority of Americans' long-term savings into local small business, we can revolutionize local economies coast to coast. But what we're seeing is through crowdfunding, we are now making it easier and cheaper for businesses to accept money from the vast majority of Americans. And that's what's so revolutionary about this. I think as people see more of these alternatives, they will begin to shift their money. One of the ways I look at this is that the total level of long-term savings that Americans have, and that is in stocks and bonds, mutual funds, pension funds, and insurance funds, is about $30 trillion. So if we had an efficient capital marketplace, about half of that money would move from Wall Street to Main Street, because that, again, that is where half of the economy is, on Main Street. Now, what happens when the first $1 trillion moves from Wall Street to Main Street? Well, suddenly, the value of all the stocks on Wall Street with less investment money chasing after them, the prices of those stocks drop precipitously. And the prices of all the securities that are being sold at the local level go up. And many investment advisors or investors who are sitting on the fence and saying, I'm not sure about this local business stuff, when they see these trends, the next $1 trillion will move, and then another and another, and this shift, $15 trillion, could be extremely rapid, and it will just be a revolution in the way that money moves in American business and American society. The crowdfunding tool that the local crowd is deploying is really just a piece of technology. And that technology has to be given life by the people who use it. Now that Powell and perhaps soon other small communities nearby in Wyoming have a website where they can do donation crowdfunding, the big questions are why you, the viewers, the listeners, can't do this yourselves. So how's this? You got a great project, you have a great business, get it on the site and raise some money for it that you need to grow or expand or get started. If you're an investor and you're looking for a way to support your community, go on the site regularly and check out what's available and put your money into the things you love. One of the things that's true about economic development and about economy building generally is that we vote every single day with our wallets. And where you put your money and where you don't put your money determines where the future is. If you care about your community, if you care about your Main Street, put your money in modest amounts in the great projects, the great businesses you find on the local crowd.